The 1700s were not born with golden light. They did not rise with bright skies and clean streets. They crawled forward under clouds of smoke, in the stench of sweat and rot, and in the cries of the hungry. To live in this century was not to live at all. It was to endure. It was to bargain with death every day, knowing that one mistake, one illness, or one winter too harsh could take away everything. Awakening in darkness, you open your eyes, not to a window filled with sun, but to a low ceiling blackened by years of smoke. Shadows cling to the beams, the wood swollen with damp, mold tracing dark veins across its surface. You do not breathe fresh air. You breathe dust, ash, and the faint stench of rot that never leaves the room. Your bed is a sack of straw flattened by countless nights. The straw is alive. Fleas jump when you move, biting your skin, leaving welts that you will scratch until they bleed. A thin cloth, once white, now gray with years of sweat, is your only covering. It smells of mildew, of sickness, of despair. You hear coughing before you see light. A deep, rattling cough, wet with phlegm. A cough that has echoed in this house for months, perhaps years. Someone's lungs are failing. In the 1700s, cough is not just sickness. It is a shadow of death. Tuberculosis, consumption, plague, names that are whispered but rarely cured. Children stir in the corner. They do not cry. They do not complain. They are too weak. Their stomachs are swollen, their limbs thin, their eyes hollow. They stare without energy, as if life has already drained from them, leaving only the shell. Hunger does not make them restless anymore. Hunger has become normal. Morning light, a false comfort. Through cracks in the wooden shutters, light begins to leak in, but it is not golden light. It is gray, dull, lifeless. The sun in the 1700s does not paint beauty. It exposes filth. It reveals the dust floating in the air, the webs of spiders clinging to corners, the dirt smeared across the floor. There is no glass in the window, only stretched paper, oiled to keep out some of the wind, but sagging, torn at the edges. Cold air seeps through anyway, carrying with it the smell of damp earth and human waste from the streets outside. The floor beneath you is uneven, planks warped with moisture. Rats scurry across it, bold and unafraid, noses twitching as they search for crumbs. You'll hear the squeak of their claws against wood, the sound of them gnawing through sacks and cloth. They are your uninvited companions, always present, always hungry. The first meal, barely food. On the table sits breakfast, a piece of bread, hard as stone. Its edges are green with mold, its crust cracked and sharp. It must be soaked in water or broth just to be chewed. Broth itself is nothing more than bones boiled until they break, leaving a thin liquid that tastes of salt and ash. Pieces of cabbage float like ghosts, a reminder of what food once was before famine reduced meals to shadows. The family eats in silence, not because they wish to, but because there is nothing to say. Conversation requires hope, energy, dreams. They have none. The bread is divided into pieces too small to satisfy anyone. The broth is poured into chipped bowls, steam rising faintly but vanishing too quickly. Every sip feels like desperation, enough to delay hunger, never enough to kill it. The village awakens. Outside, the world begins to stir. The mud road is thick with rain and waste, swallowing the hooves of horses and the wheels of carts. Men walk with tools slung over their shoulders, axes, hoes, hammers. Their faces hard, their hands already blistered. Women gather at wells, pulling up buckets of brown water, their backs bent, their fingers raw from cold. Children run, barefoot, through the muck. Their feet are cut, their skin cracked, their nails blackened. Their laughter is thin, fragile, quickly silenced by a parent's hand or by the gnaw of hunger. Even play in the 1700s is an illusion. It ends too quickly, replaced by work. The church bell rings. Its sound is not beautiful. It is heavy, hollow, like iron chains dragging through fog. It commands, it demands, wake, work, pray, obey. The sound rolls across the village, bouncing off thatched roofs and rotting walls. For many, it is the only constant in life, not comfort, but control. The streets of filth. The streets are not paved. They are rivers of filth. Human waste is thrown into ditches. Dead animals rot in alleys. Rain mixes with decay, turning every path into a pool of sickness. Flies swarm over it, thick and black, crawling into mouths, eyes, wounds. Rats are kings of the streets. They dart across doorways, leap from carts, vanish into shadows. They are bold, fearless, feeding on whatever the poor cannot eat. They spread plague with every bite, every touch, but no one can stop them. They breed faster than death itself. The air is thick with smoke from chimneys, with the smell of burning wood, the weight of the day, struggles of survival. Morning in the 1700s bleeds quickly into labor. There is no leisure, no slow rise into the day. The poor wake to work, and if they do not eat. For them, idleness is death. For the rich, the day begins not with survival, but with display, with the constant performance of wealth and power. Yet even behind gilded walls, fear lurks. The poor at workmen step out into the mud with tools that have been used so long they are nearly broken. Wooden handles splinter, iron heads rust. But there is no choice. Tools must last as long as their owners. Fields stretch beyond the village, wide and empty, their soil heavy with frost. Men bend low, their backs curved like bows, swinging hoes and pulling weeds. Each breath clouds the air, each muscle strains against exhaustion. Their clothes are rags, patched too many times to count, never warm enough. The work is endless. In spring, fields are plowed by hand, oxen dragging wooden plows that split the earth with painful slowness. In summer, sweat pours into eyes, blinding, stinging, while the sun burns skin raw. In autumn, crops are gathered, but always too little, always taxed too heavily by landlords who sit in comfort miles away. And in winter, the earth gives nothing, but the poor must still break frozen ground for wood, water, and the small chance of survival. Hands bleed, fingers crack, feet swell in boots that leak water, shoes falling apart at the seams. Children join the work as soon as they can walk, carrying buckets, scaring crows, bending low to pick stones from the soil. Their childhood is buried in the earth before it begins. Women's burden. For women, the day is a chain of endless tasks. They rise before dawn to light fires, to fetch water from wells deep and dangerous. They carry heavy buckets, wood for burning, baskets of laundry. They grind grain by hand on rough stones, the dust filling their lungs, coating their skin. They mend clothes until their eyes burn, fingers pricked and scarred from needles. They spin thread, weave cloth, patch again and again what should have been thrown away years ago. They wash with cold water, break in ice in winter, their hands red and raw, their skin splitting open. And when work is done, it begins again. Children cry, sickness spreads, hunger gnaws. A woman cannot rest. She is the heart of a house that must keep beating even when it is broken. Pregnancy is no joy. It is a terror. Every birth risks death. Midwives whisper prayers over mothers as much as over children. Half of all children will not survive beyond infancy. Half of all women may die bringing life. This is not blessing. It is gamble. The children of the 1700s, in the eyes of children, innocence fades early. They are born into struggle, and by the time they can walk, they carry weight. Boys herd animals, men tools, learn trades. Girls fetch water, grind grain, care for siblings. Childhood is not a time of play. It is a short training for labor. Disease stalks them always. Smallpox, measles, fevers with no names. A cough becomes a grave. A wound becomes rot. Parents watch helplessly, powerless to save, powerless to comfort. They bury tiny bodies in shallow earth, marked with wood that will rot away forgotten. The ground becomes crowded with the dead. The children who live grow hard, their faces too serious, their voices too quiet. They learn not to cry, because crying wastes energy. They learn not to hope, because hope dies faster than the body. The world of the wealthy. Yet in palaces, the day unfolds differently. Servants hurry with trays of food, bread soft and white, meat dripping with juices, fruits carried from distant lands. Chocolate, thick and steaming, pours into delicate cups of porcelain. Laughter echoes through gilded halls, where chandeliers drip with crystal and music floats through the air. But beneath the powder and silk, shadows remain. Teeth rot behind painted smiles. Breath stinks of decay, hidden with cloves and herbs. The wealthy live longer, but not always better. Their bodies are riddled with the same diseases, their nights haunted by the same fears. They mask death with perfume, disguise hunger with feasts, hide weakness with power. But death is patient. It waits beyond their feasts, beyond their riches, beyond their walls. The streets at midday. By midday, the village is alive with sound. The cries of vendors fill the streets, women selling stale bread, men selling fish that already stinks. Flies swarm over everything. Money exchanges hands, coins heavy with dirt, passed from skin to skin. The marketplace is not only trade, it is survival. Here the poor beg for scraps, stretch out hands, offer labor for food. Here thieves slip knives through cloth, cutting purses, snatching coins. Punishment is brutal. A thief may lose his hand. A beggar may be whipped for daring to ask. And always the church looms above. Its bell tolls again, heavy and hollow, reminding the descent of evening, hunger, rituals, and silent despair. The sun does not set in beauty in the 1700s. It does not paint skies with gold and violet as poets imagine. It sinks like a dying flame, fading behind clouds of smoke, swallowed by the weight of earth and filth. Evening is not a time of rest. Evening is a time of reckoning, when the body, already broken from labor, must endure hunger once more. Return from the fields. Men drag themselves back from the fields, their bodies bent, their hands torn. Mud clings to the boots, their clothes stiff with sweat and soil. Shoulders ache, arms burn, but no comfort waits at home. Work has ended, but survival has not. Some carry bundles of firewood, others baskets of grain so small it seems a mockery. The landlord will take the lion's share, as he always does. The poor return with scraps, their families waiting, hollow-eyed for something to quiet the gnaw of hunger. Children run to greet them, but even their joy is muted. They are too weak to laugh loudly, too hungry to play. They cling to their father's legs, searching with eyes rather than hands for food. The evening meal. Inside the home, a pot simmers above a weak fire. The broth is thin, stretched far beyond reason, flavored with bones already boiled to nothing. A shred of meat floats on the surface, a luxury so rare it seems like a dream. Bread, hard and black, is softened in the broth, broken into pieces, passed from hand to hand. The portions are small, all but too small. The mother eats last, sometimes not at all. Her children's bowls matter more than her own. Silence rules the meal. There is no laughter, no warmth, only chewing, swallowing, and the sound of hunger not satisfied. The family stares at the pot long after it is empty, as if hoping food might return. It does not. The weight of darkness. As the sun vanishes, darkness floods the village. There are no street lamps, no glowing windows, only faint candlelight flickering weakly behind shutters. Most cannot afford candles at all. They sit in shadow, the fire their only light, their only heat. The night is alive with sound. Dogs bark in alleys, their howls echoing off stone walls. Rats scurry through thatched roofs, their claws scratching overhead. Owls cry from distant fields, their voices sharp and haunting, for the poor night is not peace, it is fear. Darkness hides thieves, darkness hides sickness, darkness hides death. Many do not sleep soundly, for they do not know if they will wake. Rituals and faith. In the flicker of firelight, families whisper prayers, not prayers of joy or gratitude, but prayers of desperation. A father begs for work tomorrow. A mother begs for her child to survive the night. A child whispers to the saints, asking for bread. Religion in the 1700s is not simply faith. It is survival. The church looms over the village, its bell dictating life, its priests demanding obedience. But in the dark corners of homes, another kind of faith survives. Charms are hidden under pillows. Herbs hang from beams to ward off spirits. Mothers murmur spells. Old words passed down in secrecy. For many, the church is God's command. But in whispers and shadows, superstition is God's mercy. The secrets of the night holds secrets the daylight cannot bear. Lovers meet in barns, away from the eyes of family and faith. Thieves gather in alleys, dividing spoils by candlelight. Healers grind herbs into powders, muttering incantations, their work half medicine, half magic. Some nights, the village hears screams. A woman in labor, her cries tearing through the dark. Sometimes it ends with a baby's thin wail, sometimes with silence that stretches too long. Death is as common as birth, and every night risks both. Elsewhere, whispers rise of witches, of curses, of spirits walking the earth. A sudden illness, a failed crop, a dead child, all can be blamed on unseen forces. Fear travels faster in the dark. Rumors spread like fire. One wrong word, one wrong glance, and a woman may be accused, her fate sealed by superstition, stronger than truth. The rich behind their walls. Evening in the manors is a performance. Tables groan under roasted meats, glazed fruits, steaming stews. Wine flows in goblets of silver. Music fills the air. Harpsichords, violins, voices trained for beauty. The wealthy dine beneath chandeliers, their laughter echoing across gilded halls. But shadows creep here, too. Behind painted smiles, nobles whisper of debts, of rivals, of betrayals. Servants scurry to refill cups, their faces blank, their ears listening. Secrets move faster in these halls than any servant's hand. And when the feasts end, the wealthy retire to chambers heavy with perfume and velvet. Yet even in their silken beds fear lingers. Death does not knock here loudly, but it enters all the same. A fever spreads in silence. A cough deepens in the dark. No amount of gold can bar the door against it. Families in silence. Back in the huts of the long night. Fear, secrets, and silent survival. Night in the 1700s is not a gentle curtain falling over the world. It is a suffocating shroud, heavy with silence and shadows. When the sun disappears, the poor are left in darkness so complete that even their breath feels swallowed by it. The silence of darkness. There are no lamps along the roads. Only the moon, if the clouds allow it, lights the mud and filth of the streets. Houses become tombs, their shutters bolted, their fires fading. The village seems still, yet in that stillness lives 100 fears. Every sound is amplified. The creak of wood in the roof becomes a threat. The scratching of rats becomes unbearable. A baby's cough echoing in the dark feels like a death knell. Families huddle together, whispering prayers, clutching charms, as if words can hold back the night. The weight of fear for the poor. Fear is a second skin. They fear the sickness that spreads fastest in the dark, when the cold air bites lungs and fever grips without warning. They fear the knock on the door. Tax collectors, soldiers, thieves. They fear the cries that echo from another house, a mother wailing, a child gone silent. Superstitions thrive here. A candle blown out suddenly is a bad omen. A dog howling at the moon means death will visit. Shadows on the wall are watched with dread. Is it the play of firelight? Or something else, something that does not belong? Some hang iron at the doors to keep spirits away. Some leave bowls of water by the fire, offerings to wandering souls. Faith is not just belief. Faith is a weapon against the dark. Whispers of secrets. But the night is also a time of secrets. Taverns come alive in hidden corners lit by smoky lanterns. Men whisper of rebellion, of injustice, of kings who never see their suffering. Their voices are low, their eyes darting, for walls have ears and traitors hunger for reward. Elsewhere, healers prepare their remedies. Dried herbs ground into powders, oils boiled in small pots, roots cut and mixed into bitter draughts. Some heal, some poison, some only fool the desperate. But in the night, even illusion is enough. A mother will pay her last coin for hope in a bottle, and deeper still, hidden rituals unfold. Women gather in silence, their voices chanting old words long forbidden by the church. They tie knots in thread, burn hair in flames, scatter salt in circles. To outsiders, it is witchcraft. To them, it is survival. The rich in their chambers, behind the thick stone walls of the wealthy, night is no less haunting. Though candles burn longer and fires blaze higher, silence creeps in just the same. Curtains of velvet cannot block whispers. Perfume cannot mask rot. Lords lock their doors not from spirits but from rivals. Servants tread lightly, carrying secrets heavier than silver trays. A nobleman's feast by day can become his poison by night. Trust is rare, even in gilded halls. Yet still, the wealthy attempt to sleep wrapped in feather beds, their dreams haunted by debts, betrayal, and the slow decay of their own bodies. Death in the night. Not every family wakes to see the morning. For many, night is the final chapter. A fever runs too hot. A cough grows too deep. A child stops breathing. A woman bleeds too long after birth. The dead are carried out at dawn, shrouded in cloth, their faces pale, their limbs stiff. There is no ceremony for most. The ground swallows them quickly, unmarked, forgotten. And yet life must continue. The living cannot linger. Hunger will not wait for grief. The fields will not pause for mourning. The world in the 1700s has no time for sorrow. The cycle of survival. Endless toil, seasons of suffering and secrets. Carved in time, life in the 1700s was not lived day by day, but in circles, a wheel that never stopped turning. The faces changed, the bodies aged, the graves filled, but the rhythm remained the same. Work, hunger, fear, survival. It was a prison without walls, one that chained generations to the same fate. The dawn of repetition. Morning always began the same. A sky dim with mist, the smell of ash clinging to air, the aching groans of bodies forced to rise again, though rest had never been enough. There was no choice. Hunger woke them. Obligation drove them. Even the smallest children knew the rhythm of survival. Fetch water, stoke fire, carry wood, knead bread. Childhood was not play. It was training for endurance. Men marched back to the fields, tools heavy in their hands, eyes heavy in their skulls. Women bent over fires, their backs stooped before age ever touched them. The same tasks, the same pain, repeated endlessly. Seasons of struggle. The wheel turned with the seasons, each bringing its own cruelty. Spring promised hope, but delivered mud. Fields drowned in rain, floods washed away seeds, and sickness spread in the damp. The poor prayed for sun, and when it came, it scorched instead. Summer baked the land dry, crops withered, wells ran shallow, men collapsed in fields, their bodies trembling from exhaustion. Children begged for water, their lips cracked, their throats raw. Autumn was harvest, a false reward. Grain filled the barns, but not for those who had grown it. The Lord's men came first, collecting their due. What remained was crumbs for the families who had bent their spines to the soil. Winter was the true enemy, firewood scarce, food scarcer. The cold entered bones and never left. The poor starved in silence. Frostbite claimed fingers, toes, lives. Many dug shallow graves in frozen ground before the snow melted again. Every year the cycle repeated. Every year the poor suffered. Every year hope was crushed beneath the weight of the same turning wheel. Children born to endure. A child born in the 1700s was not a promise of joy. It was another mouth to feed, another risk to survive, another chance for heartbreak. Infants cried through the night, their voices weak with hunger. Many did not survive their first winters. Mothers buried their little ones with trembling hands, their grief swallowed in silence, for the living still needed her strength. The children who survived grew into laborers before they ever grew into adults. A boy of 10 worked beside his father in the fields, his small hands blistered. A girl of 12 carried water jars heavier than her own frame. By 15, they were no longer children. By 20, they were old in spirit. And yet, they too would marry, bear children, and begin the cycle again. The burden of women, for women, survival meant more than labor. It meant enduring childbirth without medicine, nursing infants without food, keeping families alive with hands always raw and tired. Their work was endless, dawn to dusk, fire to field, needle to pot. And still, their value was measured by their obedience, their silence, their ability to bear sons. Behind closed doors, many whispered to each other their fears, their griefs, their secrets. They passed herbs hidden in cloth, remedies against pregnancy, charms against sickness. In these whispered networks, women shared survival outside the gaze of priests and men. But whispers were dangerous. A woman who knew too much, who spoke too freely, could be branded with a single word: witch. And then the cycle ended, not with age, but with fire, the mask of faith. The church was ever present. Its bell commanded time, its priests demanded obedience, its words promised heaven, but its hands collected coin. Faith was both chain and comfort. The poor clung to prayers, repeating them like breath, for what else could they hold? Yet in the quiet, many doubted. How could a merciful God demand such suffering? How could a holy land starve its own children? Doubt was not safe. So it was buried deep, replaced by rituals, by crosses hung over beds, by holy water sprinkled on doors. Faith was less belief than it was armor. Without it, despair would devour them whole. The shadow of secrets, yet survival was never just labor and prayer. Beneath the surface, people carved out hidden ways to endure. Some stole from their masters, slipping grain into pockets, hiding meat beneath rags. Some traded in silence, herbs for bread, cloth for firewood, in markets the church never blessed. Some sold their bodies not for pleasure, but for a single night's food. And some plotted. Rebellion brewed in whispers, anger rising like smoke. But rebellion was a dangerous dream. For every man who dared speak of freedom, a dozen more were hanged to silence him. The cycle crushed rebellion as it crushed hope. Time without change. For the poor, history was not progress. I